Hey guys, and welcome to another edition of the tutorial grid. Now in this tutorial we're going to be checking out a film from the Mike and Gary crew. I helped do the visuals. Actually, I did the visual special effects for this film. What we're going to be focusing on is creating this cool portal effect, actual portal shot, kind of like from the game. And what that's going to look like. If you want to head on over to the Mike and Gary page, or I'll just show you right here. But first, we're going to check out the Facebook, Avid Productions 479. Go over there to facebook.com/Avid Productions 479 and go ahead and like us. Like us because we like you to like us. Also, check out the tutorial grid at facebook.com/tutorial grid and like us there as well. And subscribe to the YouTube channel because you know you want to. So what we're going to be creating is this portal gun effect where she shoots the portal gun. And this is from the Gordon Freeman and Shell Go on a Date Portal Half-Life live action film. That's me. Look, it's me. So this is what we're going to be creating. Boom. Right there. That little effect right there. She's bored. I'm bored. Kind of nervous. And we want bread, so we shoot the bread, and bread falls. So what we're going to be looking at is just the portal gun effect. This right here. Boom, this effect. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go on over to our After Effects, and we're going to go to Composition, New Composition, 1920 by 1080 or whatever footage you are filming on, and click OK. So first we're going to bring in our project, drag that down to our composition, and first we're going to line it up with where our composition starts. So I'm going to start my composition about right. So I'm going to bring it down from where she fires up. So it'll start. Boom, and comes down and boom, and then it falls. So I'll bring my layer over. So I'm just going to focus on this region right here, and I'm only going to focus on this, the orange shot. All right, so let's go ahead and position our time to about right here. So first off, we're going to go to Layer, New, Solid. We're going to make sure this is black and select OK. And we're going to go to our effects and presets and type in lightning, and move that over to our black solid. Now it creates this blue kind of weird thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Mode and Add. Now that basically completely wipes out this black layer. And first we're going to select our start point and our endpoint. And we're going to go ahead and start keyframing, and then we'll start messing around with our effects. So let's go ahead and line this up where we want it to start, right whenever she pulls the trigger for the orange. So we'll go ahead and hit our keyframe stopwatch on start and endpoint. And we'll go ahead and line these up. And we'll line them up on the top, and we have a little point right here where we want to start, and we'll do the second point at another time. So we'll go ahead and make sure those are keyframed and zoom into our composition and move one frame ahead. And we'll just go in and just frame this up. Now you can also use the tracker tool, but for my case, it's very dark footage and very grainy. So I'm just going to go ahead and manually do it. It'll be a lot quicker this way. All right, now that we have our keyframes framed up and it fires and it goes down, boom. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our first frame here where it lines up. We'll go ahead and hit our down arrows, effects, lightning, make sure all that stuff is lined up. We're going to select our black solid and we'll hit T, and we're going to hit the stopwatch for opacity, and we'll move one frame forward, and we're going to completely cancel it out. So we're going to zero it out. That way it appears and fires. So we'll go to our last keyframe that we framed up, and right there. Move it down to here. We're going to go ahead and hit our keyframe assistant right here. So I'll add another frame, and then we'll go one frame back, and we'll zero it out. Boom. So now we have our lightning. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the color of our blue lightning. So we'll go ahead and select the blue right here, and we'll actually go turn this down to a red, a really kind of deep red, because whenever we overlay this, it's going to come out more of a yellow. So we'll go ahead and make this kind of a darker red, and we'll select OK. And then we'll also change the inside color to this kind of orangish tint. Looks kind of odd. Maybe like about right here. Yeah, that's looking good. All right, we'll select OK. Now for the lightning, we don't want a whole lot of segments and branching. So you can kind of mess around with the segments to see what you like, but the one that I used was a very low segmented lightning, so about 5. We want to have as much detail as possible almost in this lightning, so we want it to be a little chunky, that way it shows detail. So maybe a 5. Yeah, I'm going to put it down to a 5. Actually, I'm going to put mine at 6. You can put yours at 5. And then detail amplitude, you can make this as crazy as you want to, or as not crazy as you want to, but I kind of want mine to be a little sporadic. Branching, I'm going to turn mine up to about a 0.30, and we also have the detail amplitude at 0.36. You can turn up the rebranching. That kind of makes it look a little bit more sporadic as well. I'm going to turn mine up to 0.53. And you can change the branch segments as well, but you really want to be careful with that, because you can get into this really awful look. So we'll just turn ours up to about, we'll just keep mine at 3. Speed, you don't want it to be too fast. I put mine at about 6 or 7. And stability, you want that fairly stable, because you don't want it to go all over the place. And so far, we are done with our first lightning bolt. So now what we're going to do is we are going to name this. I'm going to rename this lightning, or actually rename it something that you will remember what I'm going to name mine lightning. Lightning 1. Actually, I name it lightning front. Now duplicate this layer. So hit Control D. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go down to that first frame where it shows up, and since we already have our start point, we're just going to change our end point on this layer to this back layer. So we'll go ahead and select this end point right here and move that to the back. That way it shows a little bit of depth. And we'll go 1 frame forward and do the same thing on each one of these. We'll just move it back to this other layer. That way it shows that depth, that there are 2 points that it is connecting with. And do this all the way until you get to the end. Alright, now one thing I want you to notice is these 2 branches look exactly the same, and we do not want that. So what we're going to do is, there's a little thing on here that says random seed. You're just going to change this to something that you like. So I like this one, random seed 10, and you can choose whatever seed you want that you think looks best, because it's really up to you what you want this effect to look like. So now that we have our front and our back, we're going to go ahead and rename our lightning front 2 to lightning back. All right, now we're going to select our front layer, and we're going to duplicate it. So hit Control D, and we are going to type in our effects presets, fast blur, and we'll drag that down to our lightning front 2, and we're going to blur this quite a bit. That way it has some light. So turn that up to about 80. We'll select our lightning front 2, and we'll hit Control D again. We'll duplicate that, and then we'll turn it down a little bit to about 30, and then we'll go ahead and duplicate it one more time. So we have 4 lightning bolts for 1, and we'll turn this one down a little bit more to, let's say, 13. That way it has this really nice glowing look to the lightning. That way it's giving off light. Now we're going to do the same thing to our lightning back. So go ahead and hit Control D on the lightning back, drag over fast blur, and we'll turn that up to 80. Duplicate it again, turn that one down to about 30, 32, 30. Then go ahead and duplicate that again and turn it down to about 15-ish. So now we have this. Looks pretty cool, but there's a lot more to go. Boom. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to create what we call a heat wave. That way it looks like something's actually being fired from this gun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lock all of these layers. Also, I'm going to turn all the layers off. That way I don't see them. Now we're going to go to Layer, New, Solid, and make sure it's black again, and hit OK. And we're going to type in Particular and drag that over to our black solid. Now we're going to name this Heat Wave. Now this is going to create a particle layer where we have all these cool little particles. We're actually going to move this up to where our gun is starting to create the lightning. So about right here. Boom. Okay. So we're going to pull down our emitter cue and we are going to position this. So go ahead and make sure we have our position X and Y keyframe assistant stopwatch selected, and go ahead and position this right in front of the gun. Now we are going to track this. We're going to track it manually because, again, this is very dark footage. If you have lighter footage, you go ahead and track it if you want to, but I think this is a little bit easier. And I like this method a little bit better, especially since it's a short amount of footage. So go ahead and pull on each frame. Make sure that your particle layer is right in front of the gun. And you'll see exactly what this effect is going to do here in just a minute. Now we want to keep keyframing our particle layer right up until the you want it to stop smoking. That way it still has that essence of this gun is getting cooling down because of the heat. Alright, now that we have our particles, let's see what it looks like. Boom. Boom. Our particles come out and they're looking good. Alright. So now we have that finished. What we're going to do is we're going to start messing around with how this particle is reacting. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our velocity and we're going to turn that down just a bit. Actually, we'll turn it up just a little bit because we want it to be kind of random. Velocity random. We're going to kind of turn that up to about 60. Velocity distribution, we will turn that up just a snag to about 1.2. Velocity from motion, we're actually going to turn that down because heat rises and it doesn't rise according to how you move it. All right. We're also going to go to our physics layer. We'll put that, we'll click the little down arrow and we'll turn gravity down. That way the gravity goes up, and we'll change that to about negative 1200. So now our particles are moving up. But we don't want them to be that quick. So let's turn it back up to maybe about negative 590 and see how that looks. Looks pretty good. Now we're also going to go to our particle layer, so hit the down arrow again for the particle layer. We're going to turn the life down. That way this heat wave doesn't go too far up, because we don't want it to be too long. And we will go to particle type, and we'll do cloudlet. Turn the size up quite a bit, and we're also going to go to size over life. We'll actually start this off at about halfway, and then we'll make it bigger as it goes up. Actually, let's do a little lower than half. That way it starts out fairly small, and it gets bigger. So we'll go ahead and change the size up a little bit more. There we go. All right, now that we have that, I'm going to turn my life a little bit more up to about 1.3. And now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to change the color. So we'll hit color, the white, and we're actually going to change it to red. And you'll see why in a minute. So now we have this red particle. That's a little too long on the life. Size over life, size, life. I'm going to turn this down to 1.1. Actually, maybe 0.8. There we go. That looks better. Life at about a 0.8. And we'll also do opacity over life. We'll change that, and we will, right here at the very end, we're going to pull it down. So it's going to disappear right at the end. So that way it doesn't have such a harsh stop. All right. Now what we're going to do is we are going to duplicate our heat wave. So hit Control D, and we'll turn this off for now. And we're going to select our first heat wave. We'll go to Layer, Pre-Compose, and move all attributes into New Composition, and hit OK. And now we're going to go to our effects and presets, and we're going to type in displacement. So displacement, and we'll go to Displacement Map and bring that over to our footage and drag that down. And we're going to use a horizontal displacement on red and use a vertical displacement also on red. And we're going to do displacement map layer, heat wave, comp 2. Then we are going to select our eyeball here, and we're going to turn that off. And now we should have our heat wave. See how it's kind of messing with our background layer here? Now we can make that look a little bit more by turning up our max horizontal displacement. Actually, let's do max vertical displacement. That way you can kind of see it move up a little bit. There we go. Boom. So it starts on that horizontal displacement. You can kind of see that heat go up maybe a little less, maybe about 15. And I don't really want a whole lot of horizontal displacement, so I'm going to put that down to 0. So it's just going to actually maybe a little bit, maybe about 2 on horizontal displacement. All right, so this is what we got so far. Boom. We've got some displacement, which is good. All right, so this is what it looks like so far. We've got our lightning, and we've got our heat. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and turn all those layers off, and we're going to go back into our heat wave 2, and we're going to rename this smoke and turn it on. So now that we have our smoke layer and it's already keyed we're going to go ahead and move it to about right here. And we're going to go down to our particle layer. So right here. And we are going to go to opacity. Actually, we're going to go to color, set color. And instead of at birth, we're going to do over life. And we are going to go to color over life and hit that down arrow and cancel out all of these colors by clicking and dragging them down. So we're going to create from this red, we're going to create a really dark gray. And then we're going to double click on our blue and just create black. That way it starts out at a dark gray. Let's make it a little darker. And yes, this looks pretty awful so far. So now we're going to go to feather, cloudlet feather, turn that up all the way. We're also going to go to opacity and turn this really far down. And then we're also going to turn our size up. And turn the opacity down a little bit more. And now we have got our smoke. All right, so now we got our smoke and we should be good to go. Let's look at what this looks like with everything checked. Looking good. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Layer, New, Solid, and make sure it's black again. And we're going to type in on our effects and presets, Optical Flares. Optical Flares. Flares are fun. Now that we have our optic flares set to our black solid 14, or whatever black solid yours is named, we're going to go to Options. We are going to Preset Browser, and we're going to look for this really nice flare to add to our composition. Let's see here. What would look good? What would look good? No. We need something big, something booming. That's pretty cool. We'll go ahead and select this one, and we'll go to our editor, and we want to make sure that this is the color of our lightning. So go ahead and select that as whatever color you want. I have to do orange because I have lightning orange. I'm going to go down to my multi-iris, and I want those orange as well. Okay, and my streak, I want it to be orange also. That way everything matches. All right, and we're going to click OK whenever you're done. Now we have this cool flare. All right, now we're also going to go to Mode, Add. Now we're going to keyframe this. So I'm going to start my keyframe right whenever this thing starts to be is opaque, and then it's going to turn into our ball of fury. So we're going to go ahead and click our keyframe stopwatch, and we'll move forward a frame, and we'll start keyframing right on top of this lightning bolt. Okay, now this is what it looks like whenever it's done. So whenever she starts to cock back with the gun, it's going to go boom, and you're going to want to push that flare forward a little bit, and then right when she stops, it shoots forward. So it kind of eases in and fires. So it has that subtle firing. So it goes slow, slow out, and then boom, right out of frame. So now that we have this keyframed up, let's go ahead and mess with how this should look. So we don't want this to start before the lightning starts. So we'll go ahead and turn our brightness down to 0 and then turn it up right here. I'm going to turn mine up to about 40, and I'm actually going to change the scale up to about 210, and maybe the brightness at about 70. 70 looks good. Brightness 70, scale 210, or make it look as good as what you think it should be in your project. So I have my brightness keyframed. So it goes boom, right when it fires. You can, right before it fires, you can hit our down arrows on the effects, go to Optical Flares, and you can actually keyframe one step on the brightness, and when it fires, the keyframe right after, you can bring up that brightness a little bit, and then whenever it shoots and goes out of frame, you can turn it down. So now what that looks like is, so you have this cool looking flare, and then it fires, gets really bright, and then it goes out. Looking pretty good. Now for an added effect, you can go to our motion blur settings. You can turn on motion blur. And go ahead and just turn on motion blur for pretty much everything. And that's going to make the composition look a lot better, because it's going to have that same blurriness from the actual composition itself, and it's going to make it look a lot cleaner. Alright, and that about does it, and this is what it looks like right at the end. You have everything going on. You've got the flares and the lightning going throughout the gun, and we've got the lighting all looking good. And that is how you create the portal gun shot. Cool. Well, this is Cherokee over at Tutorial Grid. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Make sure to go over to the Avid Facebook page and like us at facebook.com/avidproductions479. Also check us out at Tutorial Grid, facebook.com/Tutorial Grid, and subscribe to our videos and check out the Mike and Gary video because it is funny. But I will see you guys next time. Again, this is Cherokee, and I'll see you later.